I do Baby Kermit on the Muppet Babies.
And Skeeter, don't forget Skeeter, now she's a little girl.
You might think you know 70s cartoons. The frantic chases, the goofy sound effects, the characters that basically defined Saturday mornings for a generation. But you've probably never heard the full weird story of what was happening away from the screen in a small soundproofed recording booth. Today, we're digging up the surprising facts about the high-pressure, caffeine-fueled world of 70s voice acting, where a handful of incredible talents worked at breakneck speed to become the voices of your childhood. To understand that pace, you first have to understand the studio that demanded it, Hanna-Barbera. In the 1970s, Hanna-Barbera wasn't just making cartoons. It was an animation factory. Shows like Scooby-Doo, Where Are You?, The Funky Phantom, and Help It's the Hair Bear Bunch were churned out at an incredible rate, dominating the airwaves. This incredible volume was only possible because of a production model built for speed. The studio famously relied on limited animation, a cost-saving technique that meant fewer drawings and more repeated movements. You've seen it 1,000 times, a character walking past the exact same backdrop on a loop. This wasn't a mistake, it was a strategy. But with less happening visually, the burden of carrying the story, creating personality, and keeping kids entertained fell almost entirely on the voice actors.
Sorry, boss. It's not easy moving a boulder.
The budgets were notoriously tight. An early 5-minute episode might be produced for about $3,000, a fraction of what lavish theatrical shorts used to cost. This high-volume, low-budget environment created a pressure cooker, and inside that pressure cooker, a handful of vocal titans were doing incredible work every single day. A show built on sound needs a phenomenal voice cast, and this era delivered. A small core group of performers voiced a staggering percentage of the characters you know and love. First, you had the legendary Mel Blanc. While famous for his iconic work at Warner Brothers as Bugs Bunny and Daffy Duck, Blanc also became a crucial part of the Hanna-Barbera universe. He brought that genial warmth to Barney Rubble in the Flintstones, and the demanding bluster to Mr. Spacely in the Jetsons.
Fine. I'd love to have a home-cooked dinner at your place. I'll be there at 6.
He was the car-voiced Speed Buggy and the comically inept Captain Caveman. There's a now famous anecdote that after a serious car accident left him in a coma, he was unresponsive until a doctor astutely asked, "How are you feeling today, Bugs Bunny?" As the story goes, Blanc replied in character, "Just fine, Doc. What's up?" It seems that even when Mel was unconscious, his characters were still ready to perform. Then there was Don Messick, one of the most essential voices in the Hanna-Barbera stable. He was the thoughtful Boo Boo Bear, a perfect foil to Yogi's schemes. He was Astro in the Jetsons, and the perpetually snickering Muttley. And of course, in 1969, he created the voice that would become a cultural phenomenon, the mystery-solving Great Dane, Scooby-Doo. And you can't talk about this era without mentioning Daws Butler. If Hanna-Barbera had a resident genius, it was Daws. He was the voice of an unbelievable roster of icons: Huckleberry Hound, Yogi Bear, Snagglepuss, Quick Draw McGraw, and Elroy Jetson, just to name a few. In the 70s, he was still a dominant force, voicing characters like Hair Bear and the Funky Phantom. His laid-back, character-driven delivery became the signature sound for many of the studio's biggest stars. Daws didn't just do funny voices, he built personalities from the ground up. Finally, there was the new kid on the block, Frank Welker. Welker's career began in a way that feels uniquely 70s. He was doing stand-up.
I've noticed that in all the airports in America, there's one guy who does those announcements, and I'm always curious, why does he talk this way?
Please hold handrail. And stand to the right.
A producer heard him do an animal impression, and it led to a dog food commercial. That producer's girlfriend worked at ABC and suggested he audition for a new cartoon. That cartoon was Scooby-Doo, Where Are You? And Welker landed the part of Fred Jones, a role he's now held for over 50 years.
How I came up with that voice was basically, it's my own voice with maybe 5 cups of coffee. You know, hey, would you do it for a Scooby snack? Oh gosh, well, come on, guys.
But that was just the start. Welker quickly became the go-to specialist for animal vocalizations and non-human sounds, a niche he completely dominated. If a show needed a creature, a monster, or just a strange noise, Frank Welker was the person they called, making him indispensable. So with the factory demanding speed and this core group of talent in place, what did a session actually look like? Well, here's where it gets interesting. Imagine a vocal assembly line. Because of the tight schedules, it was common practice to record as many characters as possible in a single session. This is where an actor like Daws Butler's versatility became almost superhuman. On the show Laugh Olympics, a massive crossover spoofing the Olympics, Daws Butler voiced nearly the entire Yogi Yahui's team. He would walk into the booth and in rapid succession perform lines as Yogi Bear, Huckleberry Hound, Snagglepuss and Wally Gator, all competing in the same event. He wasn't just playing one character, he was performing an entire team, switching between them on the fly, sometimes in a single take. Meanwhile, Don Messick would be in the same session voicing Boo Boo Bear, the announcer and Mumbly for an opposing team. It was a vocal marathon. There was little time for rehearsal or deep character exploration. The goal was to get clean audio as quickly as possible. This breakneck pace meant the actors had to rely on pure instinct and talent. It also became a breeding ground for improvisation. While the scripts provided a blueprint, the actors often ad-libbed lines and vocal tics that became iconic. Snagglepuss's famous catchphrase, "Heavens to Murgatroyd," for example, was an ad-lib that added a layer of theatrical flair beyond the written dialogue.
Heavens to Murgatroyd. His shooting has improved immensatively.
The frantic energy you felt watching at home was often a direct reflection of the frantic creative energy in the recording booth. This intense, chaotic environment did more than just produce cartoons. It forged a generation of legendary talent and shaped the future of voice acting itself. Daws Butler, in particular, understood the importance of passing on his craft. In 1975, he started a voice acting workshop out of his own home. He taught acting, character creation, and the technical skills needed to work a microphone. One of his most famous protégés was a young woman from Ohio named Nancy Cartwright. She took lessons from Daws, and he became her mentor, eventually introducing her to the directors at Hanna-Barbera. This helped her land one of her first major professional voice acting jobs on the Hanna-Barbera show Richie Rich. Of course, Nancy Cartwright would go on to become the voice of one of the most famous animated characters of all time, Bart Simpson. The techniques she learned from a master forged in the fires of the Hanna-Barbera factory became the foundation for her own legendary career. Butler's workshop trained a whole new generation, including Bill Farmer, the current voice of Goofy, ensuring the legacy of that golden era would continue. When we look back, it's easy to see these 70s cartoons as just simple, nostalgic fun. Behind the limited animation was a whirlwind of creative chaos. It was an era defined by a small group of vocal titans working at an impossible pace, armed with little more than their talent and a microphone. The pressure cooker environment didn't break them, it made them legends. So, the next time you hear Yogi Bear outsmarting Ranger Smith or Scooby-Doo letting out a frightened "uh-oh," remember the incredible artists who, in a small, soundproofed room, created an entire universe of sound, with nothing but their voices and a whole lot of chaotic energy. What's your favorite 70s cartoon character? Let me know in the comments below. And if you enjoy digging into these behind-the-scenes stories from animation history, make sure to subscribe and hit that notification bell. Thanks for watching.